roadmap won't be implemented without the implementation of new railroads and efficient roads all over the country. And this is what Egypt is trying to do right now. And two important conferences took place, or two important events took place that tackled the importance of infrastructure, of transportation, and the challenges, the different challenges, which is most importantly, that meet transportation, the problems of transportation inside Egypt, which is normal in every country. We're very delighted to be joined by Dr. Khalid Abbas, former Dean of Transportation National Institution. Good morning, Dr. Abbas.
Good morning.
A very good morning to you, sir. As my dear colleague Dina said, those two events, of course, they discussed a lot of challenges and had in the same time a lot of recommendations and a lot of plans of strategies for tomorrow. Would you please first give us a brief on those two things, the challenges, the discussions and the recommendations of those two events?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to start by saying that we need in all disciplines, whether transport or any other discipline, to regularly have events like this. I mean, conferences are not a luxury thing. Conferences are a requirement. And repetitive conferences is also a requirement. You need always to have this kind of think tank and brainstorming exercises from time to time. Now, we are very privileged in Egypt because there are lots of conference organizers in the world that wish to hold conferences in Egypt. So it doesn't cost us any money really, and it promotes,
at least.
Yeah, it promotes, actually it brings us money, and it promotes the think tanking of different disciplines. Now, we had two events, as the colleague have said now. The first one was the Egypt Transport Infrastructure Summit, which was held in one of the hotels in Egypt, and it included lots of stakeholders. It included contractors, consultants, government officials, academics, professionals, international donors. All of this came together, and actually they were not only attending, but they were presenting. We had over 2 days conference and one workshop. In the 2 days we had about at least around 20 presentations from the different stakeholders. Now that first conference tackled the transportation sector in all of its entities. So it tackled roads, railways, rivers, and logistics. It tackled also traffic safety issues. It tackled also the planning that has been conducted previously in Egypt and why this planning has not yet been implemented on the ground. One of the most important things and themes that came to the conference is the requirement, and this is a very nice thing related to English language as well, is we need to achieve what we call multimodal, integrated, smart, sustainable transport systems. This is the theme of the conference almost. And if you look at this, it has the abbreviation of the first letters of a very famous movie picture called MISTES. Multimodal, integrated, sustainable, smart, sustainable transport system. Now we talked about all the dimensions of multimodality. We talked about all the dimensions of integration and what do we mean by sustainability and the most important thing that came out of that conference is that you have to plan the transport sector and to look at it in its entity. You cannot just look at it in separate piecemeal approaches. I can continue if you wish, if you don't.
Right, sure. Dr. Abbas, also all over the media, talks came or statements were released that there is an upcoming visit by the Chinese president, and there are huge talks about forging agreements on establishing railroads with cooperation with the Chinese government and roads generally in Egypt. If you can elaborate on that, do you have any news on this?
And the bullet train.
And the bullet train, this is
I'm going to come from Mansour in half an hour or something.
Yeah, actually, as we have mentioned previously, that we have an imbalance between the number of passengers and goods moving on road transport versus rail and river transport in Egypt. Despite that we are privileged in Egypt geographically by having the river, and we are privileged that we are the second country after Britain which had railway, yet we have only around 2% of passenger, 2% of freight transports moved by rail and river, and about 6% moved by freight and river, by river and rail, while the other are in the road sector. And of course, we all know that the road sector has lots of traffic accidents, and relatively, if you compare it to the rail, and the rail and the river are more efficient, more cost efficient, less environmentally pollutions, less energy consumption. So we need really to have this integration of projects, and I think the Chinese are very keen to get engaged into a huge rail project in the Western Desert, which is the fast train or the high-speed train or the bullet train, whatever you want to call it, which possibly will connect from Alexandria until Upper Egypt in the Western area. Now, I will take this opportunity to say that we need very much to establish. I mean, this is a very big project, and I personally think that this is a requirement. Despite that it needs, of course, to have all the feasibility studies and the planning studies for it, because it's a huge project. However, the planning required, the basic rule of thumb requirement is that you need to move your population from the Delta region to west and east. Now, in the eastern part, we all know...
Build it and they'll come.
Exactly, but in the eastern part, we all know that the main project we are having now is the Suez Canal. Okay, so this is our mega project in the east. We need another mega project in the west to make this horizontal shift in the map of Egypt, east and west.
Don't you consider the new Al Alamein, for instance, city as one of those projects, or at least to be a start, sir? Yeah,
definitely, you're right. You are now moving geographically in the plan. We have another two mega projects, which is what I call the Mediterranean projects and the Red Sea project. The Mediterranean project is basically the North Coast tourist attraction, and even it's becoming to be an extension to Alexandria, and maybe it will be population areas and tourism and all that stuff. And you have also the Red Sea. So including your words, is we have four main geographical areas that we need to concentrate or to zoom in. The east, the west, the Mediterranean strip or the Mediterranean coast, and the Red Sea coast. Now, coming back to the question of the railway, I'm just warning here something very, very important, and that is, hopefully people will realize, decision makers and planners, that you don't have to take the railway project, if it happens, and inshallah it will happen, very far from the strip. Because if you take it very far from the strip, all experiences have shown Egyptians do not move very easily. They do not change locations very easily. You don't need this railway only to transport people. You need it as an opening project for economic development and demographic resettlement. We need to shake the whole demographic map of Egypt by this.
Distribution of population.
Distribution of population.
Yeah.
And remember, very nice thing, the United States, it's nice and bad as well. The United States, when you see the old movie pictures, the cowboys, the trail of the West. So they were all East occupiers, the French and the British, and then they wanted to explore the gold in the West. So they built that trail and they went there and they explored the gold, but they killed the Indians. Anyway, this is a sad story. So what we need to do here is we need to have a railway project to the west, not far, I think 10 kilometers or 15 kilometers from the strip, and then you connect horizontally, east-west horizontally, by road projects. So the main project, which is north-south project, would be a railway, high-speed railway, and then you connect. And now you have like boxes, that these boxes will, all the land value will get high, and you will develop them, and it will amalgamate itself to the strip.
Sir, if you permit me, because as you are talking about the new railway project and how it's going to connect from to the north, from Alexandria to Upper Egypt, and maybe to Aswan, and maybe even to the Nuba district. I cannot help but thinking about what's going on now. I mean, the maintenance. I mean, injecting new sets of trains or something, because maybe these projects are going to involve the private sector, so the ticket is not going to be that cheap or that available for the ordinary citizen. And this is great. I mean, I do not object, or I do not have any objection regarding that. But what about what's going on now? What about avoiding railway accidents nowadays? As you know, whenever there is a railway accident, it's a disaster.
I think that all of this, the railway projects and most of these projects will be possibly funded by international funding if it is packaged in the correct way. And I do endorse this very much, simply because we need international money coming to Egypt. We don't need only Egyptian investors to be investing. We are competing in the world now for international funding with other countries. Now, the most important thing is that we are ready for it, i.e. we are not engaged with the private sector except when we are engaged in what we call a win-win situation, not a lose-lose situation. So we have to be ready. We have to be ready by the financial feasibility studies that we have. We have to put ourselves into the private sector shoes, and we know how he's going to gain money out of that. And he doesn't come and be shrewd on us. We have to be also shrewd, and we have to protect our interests as well. And we allow him to invest, and we welcome his investments, but we protect our national interests.
A win-win situation.
Now, the other thing, as you said, I don't think that these kind of trains will be subsidized. I think you're quite right that possibly it will, because high-speed trains by default are very premium and high level of service, and you cannot subsidize them. And I think that there will not be so many stations. There will be, for example, 5 or 6 stations. So, for example, you reach from Alexandria to near Cairo, then after that maybe a station in the middle, and then a station in Asyut or in Upper Egypt, afterwards in Luxor and Aswan. So this will allow kind of business opportunities and businessmen and tourism and all that stuff to use that. So it's a premium type of passenger. Now, when they do the design features and everything, by default, a train like that will be completely has a protected track. It will be completely protected track, i.e. you will have space right and left of the train, which will be completely protected. Another very good thing that while you are talking about it is usually such projects increases the price of land around them, right and left of the train track. What should happen is that we should capitalize on this land becoming expensive, either by offering it as concessions to the entrepreneur who's going to do that, or by us developing it through urban and regional planning, such development of tourism, of industrialization, of new cities, different of sports cities,
free trade zones, logistics areas,
exactly. You name it. So you will create an enormous amount of opportunities. And by the way, many countries in the world, in Japan, believe it or not, in Japan, in Tokyo, the railway is completely funded by the land development around the railway. We own the railway authority. They own the land, and what's above the land is rented from them. So they have so much money to spend in the railway. They are very rich.
That comes by prior planning, but again focusing on maintenance and again